The moment of silence and Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Ms. Christie.
Please stand for a moment of silence. Face the flag. Pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to our work session for the month of February. Our regular session meeting will be held next Wednesday, February 10th at 5 p.m. in this room, in the Andrew Johnson Building Boardroom. Just a reminder also that several board members will be attending the TSBA Legislative and Legal Institute in Nashville on February 15th and 16th. We look forward to sharing information from that event. Also on item 7 on our agenda this evening is our annual Community Health Assessment Report, which will be provided by our Knox County Health Department Director, Dr. Martha Buchanan, and her staff, and they are joining us electronically this evening. And Dr. Buchanan, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, do we have any changes to this agenda? Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Christie, a second by Ms. Satterfield. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, and I'd like to refer to Superintendent Thomas for his report tonight.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. A few updates this evening for you. I want to begin by acknowledging that this winter weather has presented some challenges this week, as many of you know and have experienced. We know that this may be difficult for some of our families. I just want to emphasize, though, that the safety of our students, families, and employees is our top priority, and that whenever possible, we try to make early decisions about weather delays or moving to virtual learning. However, there are times when it's difficult to anticipate what road conditions will be like, and as a result, we at times make decisions early in the morning. With that in mind, I would like to encourage our families to have an alternative plan in place for those days when a delay or a move to virtual learning happens, especially on short notice. So we probably over the next, 8 to 10 weeks maybe, will be experiencing winter. So hopefully it'll be a short one and we can get on with spring and not have these kinds of challenges during the school year. And as I said, I understand that this is challenging for families, but I do appreciate the community's support as we try to keep everyone safe while also continuing to provide in-person instruction. And last week, we shared some very exciting news from the city of Knoxville and the Knoxville Area Transit. In the coming days, families of KCS students in grades 6 through 12 will receive a Youth Freedom Pass in the mail. This pass will allow their secondary student to ride CAT buses at no charge through the end of this calendar year. Knox County Schools will continue to provide school transportation on our yellow buses, but the Freedom Pass will help students gain access to jobs, visit libraries and museums, and take part in social activities on evenings and weekends. So we're very appreciative for that, and I want to thank Knoxville Mayor India Kincannon and CAT Director of Transit Isaac Thorne for their leadership on this program and their support of our students. I also want to thank our KCS students who participated in the marketing effort for the Freedom Pass. Asia Chesney of Austin East and Emily Robinson of Bearden High starred in the promotional video, and Ayanna Jones and Jude Pollard of Fulton High created the artwork for a poster campaign. So thank you very much to our students. February is Black History Month. I also want to thank our educators for their work to highlight the contributions, achievements, and history of African Americans in our curriculum throughout the year, and to help ensure that the diversity of our district is reflected in our teaching and learning. Madam Chair, members of the board, that concludes my report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Thomas. Any questions for the superintendent? Okay. All right, and now I would like to call on Ms. Christie Christie. She has the Vision Spotlight for this month.
Right, and I have a video I would like to share that was made by one of our parents and a local realtor in South Knoxville, and I think you guys have that, and then I can just say something afterwards about it.
Okay.
So, Jeff, if you could start just by telling us kind of what your education is, your background, and then what you do here at South Doyle.
I'm actually, I went to school for 7 years to become an engineer, structural engineer, and I did that for 3 years. And I decided I want to sit behind a desk the rest of my life, and I wanted to actually teach and coach football. And so somebody said, "Can you teach drafting at South Doyle High School?" And I said, "Well, I don't know where South Doyle is, and I've never had drafting." And so they said, "Well, we're going to let you try." So they let me try, and that was 18 years ago. And
Right.
so I've been in the same building, same room, and so I'm not coaching football anymore, but I'm a full-time dad now.
That's
so.
awesome. That's great. Okay, so what is your official title here? I know you're a teacher, but
Right.
tell me a little bit more.
I teach architectural and engineering drafting, or engineering design. Right now they try to model it more towards architectural and engineering, and teaching kids how to design and build, so to speak.
Great, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but a few years ago there was a big push for CTE. What is CTE?
CTE is Career and Technical Education, and actually we've actually had the governor come through here. When he came to Knoxville, he actually came to South Doyle High School. South Doyle High School has one of the best kept secrets of career technical education classes, and we have anywhere from culinary arts to cosmetology to health science to building trades, welding, architectural engineering design, and just all kinds of different things we can teach kids. If you want to go to college, you can. If you don't want to go to college and want to get out and be a blue collar worker, you're going to have the skills and opportunity to do that from here.
So the county, through this push for CTE, funded this machine for South Doyle High School. So if you can tell me a little bit more about that.
The county does a great job. Our CTE department in Knox County is just great. They provide so many things for these kids to learn and work with. And one of the things they did was buy this machine for us, and it's not cheap. And so this machine was bought, and so the kids can learn how to design and cut metal, and then they're able to grind and weld and whatever else they need to do with it. So we ended up starting last year for the metal sign business.
Okay, so tell me about that. So tell me about the metal signs and how you got started with that.
Well, it took a little bit to get this machine running right, and then once we got it running right, Mr. Thomas and I decided to make Mr. Barry, our head principal, a sign, and we did a split letter monogram, the B with Barry in between, and I had one of the kids design it actually, and then we cut it out and polished it up, painted it up, and took it to him, and he loved it. And he said, you guys need to be doing this for business. You need to be selling these to the community. And we're
Absolutely.
like, all right, well, let's do that. And so,
Thanks. So, just a couple of notes about the video. Jeff Bryant is one of these teachers we talk about that could make so much more money in private industry, but he's here for all the right reasons. And I love that they focus on kids, whether they want to immediately enter the workforce or go on to college, and they're all treated the same regardless. They try to support them regardless. And as for their metal sign business, it's actually taken off, and I will share their Facebook page later tonight. In this video, it's a little bit longer too. And they use that money to help buy and purchase equipment and things they need for those programs that we just don't have the money to fund. I believe this year they bought welding jackets, maybe with the proceeds. But I really appreciate the thought process that's going into CTE now to make these pathways, make sense, and so the kids can excel and immediately enter the workforce if they need to. And I know all their teachers are very appreciative of the support they get from the superintendent and Dr. Roswick and Dr. Wilson and everybody in the CTE department that helps make that happen. But I'll share those. And also, while we're talking about CTE, I also want to give a shout out to our health science department, because all of their CNA students passed their exam earlier this month, and they all got their certifications, so 100%.
Wow, that's awesome. All right, thank you so much, Ms. Christie, for sharing that. That's great. Love to see those things our kiddos are doing. Okay, and now it's time for the Community Health Assessment Report, and so I would like to call on Dr. Buchanan and her team to give us an update on that.
Okay, can somebody enable screen share for me, please? Oh, there we go, thank you. Yeah, sorry about that, let me share that. Can you see a PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me make it presentation. Okay. Well, first of all, thanks so much for allowing me some time to share our 2019 community health assessment with you. You'll notice that we normally would have put this out earlier in 2020, but we were busy doing some other stuff, as were you, in 2020. So we finally are able to get this out. I'm really proud of being able to get this out in spite of the pandemic. So this is really one of our cornerstone publications, and really is used throughout our community to help guide people in decision making around health. You all received a link to it. We also have hard copies if you'd like a hard copy. This is a report we produce every 5 years. Population health doesn't change all that quickly. We gather data from several different sources, some of which we get from the schools. Our youth behavior risk survey that we do in our middle schools and high schools every other year is part of the data that we have in this report. Our team of epidemiologists analyze the data and produce this report for our community to use in decision making. And I hope that you as a school board will use it to make decisions as well. We really believe that in order to build a healthy community, we need to raise awareness of health issues and what's making people sick and what's causing health problems in Knox County. So we want this document to be used for that. It's very carefully vetted by our staff and make sure it's very accurate. Hold on 1 second. And one of the things that I want to say is, when we're talking about vetting data, during COVID, we have released data in a real-time way, which is something we don't normally do. So this report takes several months of work to make sure the data is accurate and can be used to make decisions. And it's also why we only do it every 5 years. Covenant Health, for example, uses this report as part of their requirement for their Medicare certification that they're required to do a community health assessment, and they use our report for that. And we're very pleased to be able to say that. That doesn't happen in other places. So if you've seen this report before, one of the things we added that was new this year was the drivers of health, and talking about the things that contribute to our health that we might not think about contributing to our health, such as socioeconomic factors, physical environment. Obviously, we all think about health behaviors, but those health behaviors are made, those decisions are made in an environment that might have some limitations. And you see that healthcare is part of the contributor, but it's only about 20% what contributes to good or bad health. And each section has a lens through which you can look at how the drivers of health are beneficial or not beneficial to that particular area of concern. We're very aware that our health is tied to the economy and education, but the flip side is also true, that education and economy are tied to our health. Healthy workers show up for work and are productive. Healthy students show up for work and are present, are not work, show up for school and are present. So drivers of health are very important and very intertwined. So what are the next steps? The Community Health Council will take this document and select health priorities for our community, and they will use that to create the Community Health Improvement Plan, which is just a framework for community leaders and community organizations to use to know what to focus on, what areas of health are of concern. That will result in implementation of some action plans. One of the things that came out of our last Community Health Improvement Plan is the All for Knox movement that is now implementing a strategic plan to address substance misuse in our community. And I did want to try to share, we'll see if I can do this. There's some specific parts that I think will be of interest to you all. And I can't figure, I have to stop sharing my screen. So I might not be able to do that. I apologize. Okay. Right now I can't figure out how to stop sharing my screen, so I'm not sure why I can't figure that out, but I can't. Oh, there. Yes. There. Okay. Sorry. So one of the areas, and I'm not going to be able to find it, one of the areas that I think would be really interesting for you all, we do include that data from the behavioral risk assessment, our youth behavioral risk assessment. And you can see some areas that we do really well in. We do really well with vaccination rates, but we don't do so great in areas of physical activity and in bullying and safety. And I think you as a Board of Education to look at those and see those trends. Are they getting better? Are they getting worse in our community? I think would be useful. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
Anyone have any questions? Mr. Watson?
Yeah, no, thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Buchanan, so obviously there's a lot of great content in this, and one of the statements that you made is that you hope Knox County Schools will use this to help drive decisions. You just pointed out one of the things that you want us to be paying attention to. What are some of the other things that are in this report that we need to be really conscious of as Knox County Schools?
Well, I tell you what, Roberta Sturm with my office is on the call too. And Roberta is over the department that produces this report. And she may be able, off the top of her head, to be able to talk about some of those things, some of the findings that they've noticed in collating the report. So Bert, do you mind taking that question? Did you hear the question?
Yeah, I did. And just, just looking through the document, one of the things that really stands out to me, there we go, face spinning. One of the things that stands out to me is major depressive episodes among our youth. In Knox County, we kind of, we're doing a little bit worse than Tennessee and the nation. I think that also coincides with, bullying and things of that nature. But when you have a chance to look at that's one thing that stands out to me. And I think that's something that historically has been a problem among our youth. And just so you know, thinking about tobacco use, the question, I know vaping has really been big on the market lately, and the way that vaping was worded in the previous YRBS was about electronic cigarettes. And if you know anybody who does use those type of products, those are considered very different from the tools that you use to vape. So in the next edition of the YRBS, that language has been changed so that can be better captured.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Watson? Okay. Yes, Ms. Babb.
Since you brought up the vaping, I'm just wondering, as I look around, it doesn't seem like vaping is going on as much. Are we seeing any trends of it dying down, or maybe I'm just in a bubble and not seeing it? So I was wondering what y'all are seeing about vaping, because I know it was really bad, and I don't know if it's gotten worse or if we're seeing it's getting better, or what y'all are seeing.
I think with this next iteration of the YRBS, we'll really be able to kind of tease out those trends. It looks like hold on 1 second. Here it is. So looking at just e-cigarette use, it looks like about almost 15% of our high schoolers use electronic cigarettes, compared to about 12% of students in Tennessee and 13% in the United States. So we are higher than the state and nation in both of those regards. And as I can't really tell yet to see if, I won't know till I look more at this next iteration to say, is that trending up? Is that trending down? What does that look like?
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, thank you both so much for the update. We appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move now to discuss our regular session agenda for next week. Any questions on contracts 1 or 2? Oh, I'm sorry, just 1 minute before we go there. Thank you. Ms. Coatney reminded me that I need to announce this. Yesterday, or you received an email today explaining that the final documents on consent agenda 5C2 were received from Knox County Purchasing today and have been approved as to legal form by the law department. So that caption has been updated to reflect the change, as well as the final documents attached to the electronic agenda. So that's item 5C2. Thank you, Ms. Coatney. Okay, so any questions on items 1 or 2? Okay, 3 or 4? Okay, Ms. Babb.
Yes, and Mr. Thomas, I don't know who might be able to answer this, but I know with the legislation that's just passed in Tennessee, they've been talking a lot about phonics training and stuff like that. And as I'm seeing it, I'm assuming these are teacher prep programs that they're wanting to put teachers in, and I'm wondering if we're working with these programs and that they're getting up to speed on the correct kind of phonics training.
Yes, ma'am, and I think probably Scott Bolton, our Executive Director for HR, can better address that, so.
Thank you, Mr. Bolton.
So Dr. Rice probably could give a little more, thank you, Madam Chair, and the rest of the board, probably a little more detail about it. He's been following it more closely. But from what I understand, they have not written the specs. The specs will not go into this actual process until next year.
Okay.
So they're just kind of filling that out at this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question. I noticed that Walden is in Minneapolis, so I'm curious about the draw and the connection that we have there. Am I looking at the right Walden?
Yes, I think so.
Madam Chair, yes, Mr. Watson, it is home-based in there, but it is an online program. So Walden does do kind of online self-paced, but it is a program where teachers can get certified.
Yeah, I was thinking that, and so is that heavily utilized in this area? Are we drawing people from Walden who are from this area?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Typically what happens, you'll have a lot of non-traditional folks who come back to gain licensure. And a lot of times it's advantageous for them to go that pathway in terms of a virtual type school.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anything else on those 2 items? Okay. Moving on to 5 or 6. Ms. Owen.
On number 5, can someone tell us who this training is targeted for?
Mr. Myers.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Actually, it'll be, the targeted audience will be any teacher who's interested in learning more about working with that population. So our ELL supervisor, Ina Slesher, has done a really nice job of vetting this person. She's sat through one of the trainings. We're really excited to make it accessible to all of our Knox County Schools teachers so that they can learn more about working with that population.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anything else? Okay, moving on to 7 or 8. Okay, board policies, policy A100, A120, B111, B160, G460, I381, okay, and D233. And just so the public knows, just 1 second, These policies, our board, the majority of our board and the policy review team reviewed these policies a couple of weeks ago when we had policy reviews. So, so that would be why there aren't very many questions. Mr. Watson.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a question. It was brought up in policy review, but I know there wasn't a lot of time to answer it there, and I'm curious if there's any more information on G460. I know that policy is going, I'm sorry, maybe I'm the wrong one. Sorry, D233. My eyes are playing tricks on me. Around the purchasing policy for technology, I know it's going to create some additional staffing needs. Do we have a sense of what that's going to be in terms of, in order to implement that policy with fidelity?
Mr. Oakes.
It's around this policy and around IT and property management altogether. We have put together requests for 2 additional positions within the FY 22 budget where we're going through that process. I don't know, if they will survive the budget process, but that's what we were looking at that we would need, and to do a little reorganization within our various departments to better align what we're doing with property acquisition and property management.
Yeah, thanks, Russ.
Thank you. Ms. Babb?
Yeah, this is more a request when we go through the budget process. Can we get a little information on, I mean, I know this has got to been a huge job for our technology staff this year. Did we get some information during the budgeting process on how it's been this year with the number of people? Because I know we were not prepared for them taking on the amount of technology work that they had to do. So that would be good to learn more about.
Yes, ma'am. We can certainly put you some information together on that, and we'll look at how to get it back to you and how to communicate that.
Thank you. Okay, and also the policy I-381 integration of TCAP and EOC scores, that we did not, if I'm not mistaken, we did not discuss that in policy review because we got additional information, of course, after the meeting. Since that policy is time sensitive to the end of our semester and affects how student grades are factored in, and our teachers need this information as soon as possible, I would request that someone next week make a motion that we waive second reading on this policy so that our schools can move forward and do the business of determining how student grades are factored. Is that anything else, Dr. Reiswick, that you'd like to add? Okay.
I did have
Ms.
one
Babb?
question on that. It says TCAP, but I thought it was TN Ready, and I was just wondering about, is it really called TCAP now, or that was my only question I had.
Thank you, Ms. Babb. The TCAP is the program, TN Ready is the assessment.
Okay, thank you.
So.
Okay. Any other questions on that or any other policies? Okay. All right. Moving to grants. Let's see. This grant is the Knox Education Foundation. And Superintendent Thomas, would you like to share some information on that before we discuss this one?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair, and thank you very much. And also, Dr. Reiswick and Mr. Myers are here too to talk specifically about it. But just a few words before that. The Elevate program is just really great news for our district. Very excited to share more about it with you this evening. It's a partnership between Knox County Schools, Knox County, the McNabb Center, and the Boyd Foundation. As we all know, substance abuse has become an increasingly difficult challenge in our community and across the country, and our students have certainly been affected by that. The Elevate program is designed, to provide a place for students who are recovering from substance abuse or addiction to receive the social and emotional support they need to graduate and to maintain sobriety. Participation is expected to begin in the fall of 2021, or this coming fall, with a class of approximately 10 students, and I believe this program represents an innovative, proactive approach to this issue. It's also been on the table for conversation over about the last 3 years I know of, maybe 4 years actually when it first started. And I'm especially excited because our community partners have stepped up to the plate to make this strategy a reality. The Boyd Foundation has provided a $150,000 grant through Knox Education Foundation to fund the startup cost for Elevate, while Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs has agreed to allocate money from the county budget to cover staffing for the program's first 3 years, an estimated annual expense of $89,866. So very grateful for the mayor's help with funding, and also the Boyd Foundation with the startup cost. And the McNabb Center, they've agreed to provide classroom and meeting space for the program in addition to intensive outpatient therapy for our students. So I've said many times that we simply cannot accomplish our mission without the support of our community. This is another great example of how Knox County citizens and leaders are willing to support the district's work. I believe the Elevate program will not only help students make progress academically, but will also support their social and emotional well-being in all areas of life. And again, I'm very grateful for Randy and Jenny Boyd, for Mayor Jacobs and the McNabb Center for their investment in our students and our school communities, as well as the many other community organizations for their support of this initiative. So again, just a great example of the community coming together to help solve a problem that is in our community. So very appreciative of all the agencies that are helping with this, and looking forward to this program starting up in the fall of 2021. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Superintendent Thomas. Ms. Babb?
Yeah, I'm thrilled on that information, and I was hoping that somebody could maybe just explain a little bit more. Is it going to be like a Paul Kelly type situation, or kind of what the structure we're envisioning for this?
Mr. Myers, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I can speak a little bit about the design. Obviously, the team that's working to put this together, now that we know we've secured funding and we're going to be launching the pilot, will obviously do a lot of that more specific work. But currently, it's going to be unlike really anything we have. Currently, the plan would be for students to report to the site around noon. They would have lunch, which Helen Ross McNabb is working to provide that lunch. At that time, they would participate in their therapy, and then at 4 o'clock, the academic part would start. We do plan to leverage our new online platforms to help provide that instruction, and then use staff to support the learning is going to be the model. We also plan to have security on site and an administrator on site as well.
Thank you. And we think it'll be at the McNabb Center?
They have allocated us a space in one of their facilities, and its name totally escapes me right now, so I apologize, but I can get that to you.
And do we have any sense of possible number of students that we might think might participate?
Yes, ma'am. That's a good question. We've actually planned to try to recruit 10 students for this school year. Again, we're focusing on a pilot, so we want to make sure that the programming is right. Our hope would be to slowly expand that every year, and we plan to work with Helen Ross McNabb and the juvenile court system to identify students who may be appropriate candidates for the Elevate program.
Okay, Mr. Watson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I love that we're doing more like of this public-private partnership stuff. I think anytime we can get into that space is really, really good, and love all the investment that is coming for this program. And especially with the dual nature of this, that we're both trying to help affect young people's sobriety, but we're also trying to affect their academics, obviously. And it's a pilot. How do we envision, or in what are some of the ways that we envision that this will measure success of this program?
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head, right? We want to look, as closely as we can monitor those data. Are we going to have situations where, students relapse, and then obviously we can definitely manage tracking their academic data as they move forward as well. We know we hold the keys to those data, but certainly we'll be looking at those things. I know that the Boyd Foundation is interested in us collecting those data, and how we'll collect those data is work that team will be moving forward with now that we know that it's a go.
Yeah, I'd love when we're at that point for those goals and those metrics to be shared with the board, just so we can get a sense of how it's progressing and how we're meeting those goals long term. So you talked about recruiting 10. Do we know how this is going to be marketed? How is this going to be, market is not the right word, but how are we going to attract kids to this?
So again, we'll work with the juvenile court and Helen Ross McNabb to identify students who potentially would fit the program. And then the plan is really to kind of narrowly focus in on those individual families and speak to them about what we believe the benefits of such a program could be for their child, and what the I guess, the daily walk of that program would be.
And if a student graduates from this program, they'll be graduating really from a base school, though? So it's not its own school, it's a...
Yes, sir, that's correct. It's going to be, we're identifying it as a program, so any student who were to be served through that program upon their graduation, if they let's say if that was the terminal year,
Sure.
Their diploma would be from their base school.
Right, and would not mention something like Elevate program or something on it, correct?
No, sir. Transcripts, diplomas, none of that would say Elevate program.
Good, yeah, I think it's a huge benefit, and I'm also want to be conscious about the potential stigma that comes from you graduated from the, you know what I mean? So,
Yes, sir, absolutely.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Thank you, Mr. Myers. Any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you all for your work on this program. Great, good stuff. Okay, moving on to, let's see, where were we? Grants, this would be B or C? Okay, any questions on D? Okay, moving to contracts, questions on A or B? Questions on C or D? E or
Madam Chair,
F?
sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yes,
I had a
go right
question
ahead.
I had a question on D.
Okay.
So I've had that app where I get to track when my daughter is, which I think is awesome that we have that. Is this a different system, or is this a renewal of a system we've used in the past? And do we have any sense of how much it's being used? Because I know it took me a while to even figure out that we had that technology. So I guess I'm trying to understand about the use of this.
I can tell you it's a different system,
Okay.
and we expect it'll be more functional than the system we've had. What I'd like to do, if it's okay with the chair, is let Mr. Dillingham, our transportation director, talk to the details of it a little bit.
Sure, thank you. Mr. Dillingham?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To answer your specific question, this is a different system. We used a system called SafeStop previously, and they went out of business. So we have had nothing for this school year. This is our attempt to find something to fill that gap. We currently use Edgelog as the routing system that we use, and so it will pair more favorably with our routing system easier, gives us some additional functionality, and able to kind of do a little bit more for our parents is our hope, than just be able to show them where the bus is.
Thank you. So do we have a sense of how much the old system was utilized compared to like total number of students who are using buses? I mean, do we have any sense of that?
So we maxed out at about 2,000 users,
Okay.
2,000 unique users, based on, with SafeStop, you essentially signed up with a child and you had a unique username and password.
Mhm.
So that's the number of unique username and passwords that were used. But, if you, for your daughter, gave it to her grandparents to use as well, that's 4 people using it, and we're going to see 1 username.
Sure. Okay. Very good. And then I also want to encourage that as we get into this system that Carly and her fantastic team does some really good marketing around it, because I think it's a great tool that was probably underutilized, both because it was a little bit glitchy before, but also I just don't think people knew about it. So, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Thank you, Mr. Dillingham. Any other questions for Mr. Dillingham? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, questions on E? Questions on F? Mr. Watson?
Sorry. It's I'm not trying to ask all the questions tonight, but I appreciate the opportunity. So I read through the details of that contract. Russ, do we have any concern at this point that 19 million we might exceed? I'd certainly appreciate the desire to give a maximum price post-design, but I'm also curious if we have any sense of...
At this point, it's a little early to tell if the construction cost will definitely exceed 19 million. And I know that the county's going back through and looking at that, and right now the initial cost that we got in was a little over 19 million. I think there's an expectation that as we get to 100% design, they'll be able to pull that down some. I can tell you that the total project cost, though, will be more than $19 million. So we'll have to address that in the FY22 capital plan as we go through that process this spring.
And I think that was something that was brought up to the board just a couple months ago as we were discussing this project. So
yes, sir.
Appreciate that.
Mr. Oakes, you should have sat on the front row tonight. You're getting your exercise.
I'm a good Baptist.
Good to hear. Okay. Any questions on G? Mr. Watson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Russ, I shouldn't have had you sit back down. So I believe, so the public knows, the board received 2,000 pages for this agenda tonight. So 1,400 of them was this contract, I believe. So I'm certainly not completely well versed on all the details. I only have two things. One is, do we have any sense of how long this conversion will take? And then also, I know we're paying for it out of savings, which I think is great. But have we looked into additional opportunities to actually pay for some of it up front through grants associated with this type of work? Because I know this is one of the things that, over the last few years, there's been more opportunity to receive funding for. So,
you asked about 6 questions there. I'm trying to get the answers
so
lined up.
Really just to about how long will it take, do we think?
And I'll jump into this, but Owen Nevada from Train is here tonight too, if we want to get into any of the details. But we anticipate that the implementation of it will take a couple of years to get through the process. And what this does, you said you had 1,400 pages, and if you go into those 1,400 pages, it basically shows you every light fixture that's going to be changed in the district and where it is. This will get us to an LED program in all of our schools. It will also include all of our parking lots. It will include our stadiums and athletic facilities. So the lighting that we'll have at the conclusion of this process won't compare to what we have today. And it will be paid for through savings. Plus, we also anticipate through this program that, and Train guarantees the savings, we anticipate about a $97,000 positive cash flow to us after the savings. But that's just the top part of it, because when we look at what we do in maintenance with fluorescent tubes and what we have to change and the work that we have to do between what we pay for fluorescent tubes and disposal of fluorescent tubes and the manpower, we expect to save something around $400,000 a year once the program is in place, just in those areas. As far as grant funding, we've not looked at that. We've looked at a lease program, and we've also looked at municipal bonds, and that's sort of in the hands of the county how they would like to move forward with that. But right now, where the discussion is that we would do it through municipal bonds and reflect it in our capital plan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oakes. Ms. Owen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say that if our train representatives would like to say anything, I'd like to give them that opportunity if they have any addition.
Thank you, Ms. Owen. Since they are here, we may as well hear from them. Hello.
Nice to see you all. I appreciate you entertaining us and this tonight. And if there's any questions at all, feel free to ask. And I'll apologize up front for the 1,400 pages.
It's all good. It's all good. I didn't feel any pressure. So.
No, it's been a really, really good program for everyone since its inception, and it's based on transparency and everyone working together. And it's not all about Train. Your energy manager's sitting out here, and he's got a lot of skin in this game for the schools.
Mr.
Yep, Owen, I want you to guarantee increased student achievement with better lighting. So if you would do that before you step down.
I think y'all will be pretty pleased.
Thank you. That's what I needed to hear.
Great. That goes right along with our strategic plan then. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, Ms. Satterfield, did you have anything? Okay. Anything else on this? Okay. You have a question on H? Go right ahead.
More of a comment. So now that we have this warehouse center in our backyard, I will just want to publicly encourage and push Knox County Schools to continue to build those private partnerships, because I do think that this is a great opportunity for our scholars to be exposed to the business of something that they really know. So I hope that we can see that type of business with the Amazon. I know this is a business contract, but moving forward in the future, I would like to see private partnership with that, because it's in a district that, close to districts that can really use that type of CTE type of support.
Okay. And Mr. Watson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I know this is for the business contract, but also having a business contract myself with Amazon, do we also get the benefit of Prime with this contract, or are we not buying into that? And to save on shipping and those types of things.
Mr. McPherson? Or Mr. Dupler?
I think it is. I think Prime's included in this.
All that Prime subscription for all of Knox County schools, Knox County government as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay, and then we'll move to regular agenda items. Any questions on A, B, C? Mr. Watson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Does this $4.2 million from the ESSER 2.0 funds, does this complete our initial rollout? Meaning, will we be through that first? I know we got to replace over time, but.
Madam
Mr.
Chair,
Cox?
members of the board. So yes, this will complete kind of that first phase where last year we chose to defer some of the purchase of new Chromebooks. This will get all of our students with a modern, updated Chromebook.
Thank you.
Yep.
And could you also, what about, where are we on teacher laptops?
Sure. So we were able to do a little over $1 million worth of teacher laptops this year, which is roughly 1,000. So our plan with ESSER is to hopefully continue to invest in these teacher laptops, and we propose sort of a double down strategy where we can really focus in this next year on new teacher devices as well. So our hope is to continue that push. We've done 1,000, so we're a fifth of the way there, and we hope that this train keeps moving, year after year.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Fab, did you have a question? Okay, we both had that question. Anything else? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, and then item D. Ms. Satterfield.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quick question. I see that this is just approval of use of curriculum. Is there any type of push to unify that our schools are using something like this across the board, or is just available?
Ms. Jackson, thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Members of the board, yes. So these are curricula that have been in place in our schools. They're special courses that are unique to Knox County, so we have to reapply for them when they expire. What we have done since about 5 years ago, they changed the process on this, and we have made them available when we file the application for any school to be able to use them. It used to be it was only for the school that was making application, but we have shifted to where if these are approved, then any school in Knox County will be able to have access to offer these courses.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And that goes for all of these courses, including the CTE, the leadership and the CTE?
I know for sure it's true for the leadership. I will defer to my colleague, Dr. Wilson, is it true for CTE as well?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. McMillan, did you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do you have any idea I won't ask you to name each one of them, but from the smallest class to the largest class, what they encompass as far as number of students?
I would have to.
You said we used them in the past.
I could pull that and send it to you, and I'd be happy to do that. I know these are very popular classes in our schools, and they're something that are offered in many of our schools, and the students are very eager to take them. So I think they are well attended, but I would have to pull the applicant report to know the number.
From what you've seen, there wouldn't be any of them that would have a very small number, like 10 or 12 or something.
For leadership, these are not typically small classes. I'm sure that there are perhaps for CTE or.
Welcome, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you. To Shannon's point, the courses for CTE, which specifically I'm sure we can offer at multiple schools, but as far as the application setup, we are just applying for next year for it to be at L&N STEM Academy. That's a course that, as she mentioned, the process has changed over time, but they had actually an approval for a 3-year time span previously, and then another single year last year, and then again an application this year for another 1-year stint. And again, just thinking master schedule and CTE limits in those classes, they're fairly full. The digital arts and design teacher there, he's actually teaching this as the track within digital arts and design, so that would be a fairly full elective track. Could pull numbers for you if you were interested specifically.
I just wanted to get some general idea.
Sure.
You know, we didn't have 2 or 3 that were extremely popular, and then we had a couple down here that there were very, very small number.
Yeah, I think those courses, and again, Shannon, those have been refined heavily over time. The state has really, I think, wanted to move away from a lot of special type courses being out there and really kind of unify that. So we have just those 2 is all we have.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you both very much. Okay, so that concludes our agenda. Now we'll move on to public forum.
There's no one for public forum tonight, so that concludes it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Babb. Any comments for board forum? Mr. Watson?
I feel like if I didn't say anything, it'd be like I was breaking the trend or
We
something.
wouldn't know what to think.
Yeah, I was breaking the trend or something. I just wanted to, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of the whole board, I just really wanted to say again, thank you for all the acknowledgement and encouragement that we felt across the district last week for School Board Appreciation Week. I know we were feeling the love. I got to see Evity cry. I mean, it was a really good week. So, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Watson. I appreciate you saying that. That we did. We felt very special last week. It was very nice. So thank you to Superintendent Thomas and his team and all the schools that reached out. We do appreciate it very much. Thank you. Okay, and that concludes our meeting. Thank you.